Today's review is going to be a long one, because literally the only thing that we're talking about today is movies. But if there's one goal that I have for today, no singing, no dancing. Because I don't do that. I don't sing, I don't dance, it's not my thing. So, alright, here we go. Today... What the heck was that? No. No. We do not sing, we do not dance on the Big Screen Leap. We do talk about it, though. Okay, before somebody comes in and starts a giant dance number in my studio, let's get to the review. Roll the intro. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Big Screen Leap, the show where we take stories from words, pixels, and scripts and see how they land as Hollywood hits. I'm your host, William Redman. Now, before we get started with today's review, I have something that I want to talk about real quick. This is the 10th episode of the Big Screen Leap. That's right, 10 episodes of reading books, watching TV shows, playing video games, and looking at questionable decisions by the movies. Honestly, in the grand scheme of things, especially when it comes to YouTube, 10 episodes really isn't a lot, but for me, it kind of is. Because I'll be honest, after episode 1, I didn't really know what the show was going to look like. I've had a great time filming this show. I've had some highs, like one of my videos reaching 1,000 followers and still climbing as we speak. And I have had some lows, having some videos that I thought were going to be good, not get as many views or interactions that I wanted, but that's okay. We're still early in this, we're still learning, we're still trying to figure out, what works best for me, and we're trying to figure out some things that you all want to see more of. As always, we're trying to get better here on the Big Screen Leap and for Red Studios, but in all seriousness, whether you've been here from the start, you randomly stumbled on one of my videos, or you clicked on this one because you saw that High School Musical was in the title, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I've had so much fun doing it, and I hope to continue it in the future. Again, have some great ideas for some other things that we're going to do with this show. Again, thank you. Now, for the review. Today, I figured we'd do something a little bit different. See, normally on this show, we take a book, video game, TV show, and we compare and contrast it to its big screen movie adaptation. But today, we're going to see what happens when a big company makes 2 made-for-TV movies, and then for the third one, they say, hey, let's go big with this one. That's right. Today we're looking at High School Musical and High School Musical 2, the hit made-for-TV movies by the Disney Channel. We're going to look and see what made them successful, and then compare them to the theatrical third and final movie of the series, High School Musical 3, Senior Year. Now, before we get started with the review, I feel like I need to give you a quick history lesson. See, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Disney Channel was one of the top cable programs for kids. And one of the things that set it apart, Disney Channel Original Movies, or DCOMs for short. DCOMs were movies made by Disney, but not sent to be shown in movie theaters. Instead, they were released as TV movies. They usually had a tighter budget, smaller scopes, but huge personalities. If you grew up watching DCOMs, then you were probably lucky enough to watch some of the great ones like Brink, Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, Johnny Tsunami, and Halloween Town. These movies ended up being a huge part of millennial childhood, even some of them garnering sequels. But it wasn't until the 2000s that somebody from Disney said, hey, maybe one of these should go to the theaters. And that's what we're here to discuss today. We're going to talk about the first DCOM movies, High School Musical 1 and High School Musical 2, their stories, how they got made, and why, for the third and final one, they decided to go to the theaters for it. Was High School Musical a slam dunk that needed to go to theaters, or was it a stage setting made out of cardboard waiting to crash? Well, let's find out. Grab your basketball, grab your textbook, grab your playbill, and let's dive in, starting with the plot. So, let's start where it all began, the 2006 release of High School Musical. We open on New Year's Eve at a ski lodge. Here we meet the first two of our main cast for the movie. Troy Bolton, played by Zac Efron, who's a basketball prodigy. Yeah, at 5'9", he's really going places with basketball. And Gabriela Montez, played by Vanessa Hudgens, who's a quiet, shy math nerd. They get forced by their parents to attend the kids' New Year's Eve party at the ski lodge, where they're having karaoke night. Suddenly, Troy and Gabriella are both picked and forced to go on stage to sing together, and while they have some reservations at first, they get over their nerves and start to perform, and it turns out, they actually both sing pretty well. It's as if all of Disney stopped and thought, this was the greatest thing ever made. Anyways, fast forward, we meet up with Troy at his high school in New Mexico, East High School, where not only are they starting a new semester, but the Wildcats basketball team is getting ready to compete in the state championship. But surprise, surprise, we also find out that Gabriella's mom has gotten a new job, forcing her to move to New Mexico, which means Gabriella is now a student at East High. Is all of this sounding familiar? Like maybe another movie doing something similar? Well, I hope it sounds similar because we're going to talk about it later in the production. Gabriella's brain attracts the attention of the captain of the academic decathlon team, Taylor, and she begs Gabriella to join for their big competition. Meanwhile, auditions are coming up for the big screen musical, and Troy and Gabriella both start showing interest about possibly auditioning. They both show up, and even though the drama teacher, Miss Darbus, says they're too late, they end up singing on stage with pianist Kelsey. Darbus hears them and decides to give them a call back. This causes a lot of issues in the school. The basketball team finds out, and they're upset that their star player isn't locked in for the state championship, especially Chad, Troy's best friend, who thinks people should stick to the status quo, and their head coach, who just so happens to be Troy's dad. The academic decathlon team aren't happy that Gabriella wants to sing songs instead of solving equations. But the person probably most upset about this is Sharpay Evans. She and her brother Ryan are usually the leads in all the musicals, and they're not happy that another duo might try to upstage them. And East High itself? Well, it's going through identity crisis, but with song. Suddenly, everyone thinks they can do things that aren't in their norm. Another basketball player confesses his love for baking, a skateboarder tells his friends that he plays the cello, but the whole school balks at these confessions, telling everyone to stick to what they know. But Troy and Gabriella don't let this affect them, at first. They start practicing for their callback until the basketball and decathlon teams form a plan and make it seem that Troy isn't truly interested in Gabriella or the callback. They call it off at first, but Chad and Taylor feel bad for what they've done, so they tell Troy, and he goes to Gabriella for a second chance. She gives him one, but then Sharpay tries her own hand at sabotage. She convinces Darbus to change the date of the callbacks to the same time that the state championship game and academic decathlon will be going on. The two groups team up and devise a plan to where they can still participate in their respective competitions, and Troy and Gabriella can do the callbacks. They succeed, Troy and Gabriella make it to their callbacks, get the roles for the spring musical, then Troy and the Wildcats win the state championship, while Gabriella and the academic team wins the decathlon. And the rest of the high school learns that maybe, just maybe, you can be whoever you want to be. We end the first movie with the cast singing about how they're all in this together. Wow, that was a lot. Probably more than I needed to explain. I think I'm going to need a minute. Let's go to commercial. Wait, I don't have those. Well, okay, on with the second movie. High School Musical 2 takes place, I think, in the same school year as the first High School Musical. I'm not quite sure. The cast looks much older from the first movie, so is it the same year? Or did we skip to the end of the next school year? Honestly, It doesn't matter. Anyways, it's summertime. The school breaks out into a frenzy, with everyone excited for summer and thinking about what they plan to do with their time off. However, not everyone has relaxing plans. Sharpay decides that she wants to date Troy because she thinks that they belong together, mainly for performance reasons. She devises a plan to get him a job at her family's country club for the summer so she can get closer to him and hopefully make him forget all about Gabriella. But lo and behold, Sharpay's parents and club manager Mr. Fulton are one step ahead of her. Not only do they hire Troy, but they end up hiring all of Troy and Sharpay's classmates, including Chad, Taylor, and Gabriella to work at the country club. But that doesn't stop Sharpay. She just makes some adjustments and keeps going. Suddenly, Troy starts getting promotions while working in the club, and they end up coming with some big-time perks, eventually getting him a chance to hang out with basketball alumni from the University of Albuquerque, which is the school that Troy, and mainly his dad, have been dreaming about getting a scholarship offer from. But with all these opportunities, Troy starts to treat Chad and the rest of his friends like servants, and keeps coming up with excuses as to why he can't hang out with Gabriella. But they're not the only ones who feel left out. Ryan feels abandoned by his sister because she's trying to get Troy to perform with her. He ends up hanging out more with the Wildcats and helping them to create a performance for the annual talent show. Eventually, everything comes crashing down. Gabriella tells Troy that she's not happy and breaks up with Troy with the emotional song Gotta Go My Own Way. Which, if I had to guess, probably destroyed every middle school relationship in the early 2000s. Troy eventually realizes that while all these opportunities are great, they don't mean anything if he can't share them with his friends. He leaves Sharpay, goes back to his teammates and apologizes, and they plan a big number with Ryan for their talent show. Sharpay realizes she's been a big jerk to her brother, and actually grows a little from this. During the talent show, Gabriella returns, and her and Troy reunite and sing together during the show. Then later on, they share a kiss, while the rest of their classmates are out having fun. The movie ends with a final big pool party, and a musical number to close us out. Okay, that was a lot. Seriously. Plus, more singing and dancing than what I'm used to. I'm sorry, I need a break. Give me 1 minute. Okay, I think I'm good now. On to our third and final movie, which released in theaters. We open the movie on a new school year, but this time, Troy and the Wildcats are seniors, which means pretty soon they'll be saying goodbye to East High and move on into the real world. The Wildcats are playing in the state championship once again, and we open with a musical number that shows just how big this movie's going to be now that we're in theaters. We go from the camera barely moving to wide sweeping shots during the game as we watch the team play and sing about how their time is almost done. East High wins the game, and suddenly their time in high school seems to be drawing to a close faster than they thought. Suddenly, in this movie, it's not about auditioning for another musical, it's about asking what's next. Troy is torn multiple ways in this movie. He and Chad received basketball scholarships to the University of Albuquerque, and originally, it was his dream school. But he starts to wonder if he wants to stay closer to Gabriella, who is planning on attending Stanford. And he also starts to think that he would like to study musical theater in college. Which, does the University of Albuquerque not have? Anyways, Darvis decides to put on a stage musical that features all the seniors reflecting on their journey at East High. And at the same time, Troy also finds out that Juilliard is showing interest in him possibly attending their school to study musical theater as well. Ah, yes. The guy who's been in, what, 1 or 2 musicals is all of a sudden Juilliard material? Right. Troy and Gabriella spend the rest of the movie talking about their futures and practicing for the musical. Meanwhile, Sharpay, wanting to have the spotlight to herself, decides to basically do the same thing she did in the second movie. Get Gabriella out of the way so that she can be the star of the show with Troy. She finds out that Gabriella has been selected for a special program at Stanford where high school seniors can get an early start in their academics at the university, as she lets it slip to Troy. Troy, not wanting to hold Gabriella back, convinces her to take part in the program, but immediately regrets it as Gabriella tells him that she's not coming back to partake in any of the school activities, such as prom, the final musical, and graduation. Troy decides to drive all the way to Stanford to convince Gabriella that she's a big part of why the school changed. Really? I thought that was more of Troy's doing, but whatever. And even though she might be done with East High isn't done with her. They return, partake in the musical, and then the seniors get to come on stage to make their decisions. Chad's going to the University of Albuquerque for basketball, Taylor's going to Yale, Sharpay is also going to the University of Albuquerque to study stage musicals. Hey, wait, see, they do have it! As well as to assist Darbus with the drama program. Ryan and Kelsey both get scholarships to Juilliard, and Troy decides that he wants to attend the University of California so that he can stay close to Gabriella, which makes sense, and play basketball and study musical theater as well. Again, he couldn't do this at Albuquerque? The Wildcats graduate, sing their final number, and the main 6 cast members walk towards the camera to give their final bow as credits roll. Wow, that was a lot. And we're still not done with the review. Well, okay, on with the production. So how did these movies come into production? Would you believe me if I told you it was because of the movie Grease? That's right. For those of you who don't know this movie, which, if that's you, seriously, what's wrong with you? Grease is a 1978 musical movie starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. The story is about 2 high school students, Danny, the leader of a gang called the T-Birds, and Sandy, a sweet, innocent high school student, who meet over the summer, go their separate ways, then lo and behold, Sandy transfers to Danny's school, and we get a whole movie about both of them singing, dancing, and trying to change the other so they can suit the other person for a relationship. Yeah, remember when I asked in the plot if something seemed similar? High School Musical is basically a retelling of Grease. Just a little more kid-friendly. Grease became a cult icon, and it's one that is still beloved to this day. Then, Grease 2 came out in 1982, starring Michelle Pfeiffer. It wasn't as loved. Which, honestly, it's not the movie's fault. It's not a great movie, but it's not the worst thing we've ever seen. Unfortunately, it was kind of in a lose-lose situation. Basically, if it came out as a sequel to Grease, it had a lot to live up to. But if it came out as its own thing, everybody was just going to say it was a Grease knockoff. But I digress. The story became dormant after the second movie, but in the late 90s, there were talks of a third Grease movie. The story was going to take place many years after the first movie, and it was going to be a situation where Danny and Sandy broke up after the first movie, met other people, and had kids that would eventually meet. And here's the kicker. Justin Timberlake was slated to play Danny's son, and Britney Spears was going to play Sandy's daughter. I'm not kidding. And to add even more to it, Justin's boy band at the time, NSYNC, was going to star as the T-Birds, and then Christina Aguilera was going to star as the daughter of Rizzo, who was a character from the first movie, who was the leader of the girl gang, the Pink Ladies. I can't make this stuff up. Even John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John were in on this movie. Thankfully, Paramount, who held the rights to Grease, said absolutely not, and the project was shelved, never to see the light of day. Until the script was sold to Disney, and they were like, well, I guess we could make something work with this. Thus, High School Musical was born. But here's the thing. Nobody expected High School Musical to become as big as it did. It was a Disney Channel original movie, which meant a lower budget, faster production schedules, and designed primarily for TV. Not to mention, after this and High School Musical 2 came out, DCOMs kind of hit a decline for a little bit. Not that they were bad or anything. There were still some good ones that came out, but there wasn't as much hype that surrounded DCOMs for a while. That's changed recently with releases like Descendants and Zombies, but a lot of people, mostly my generation, have claimed that High School Musical killed DCOMs. But that's a story for another time. We have plenty to talk about here. The movie was directed by Kenny Ortega, who mostly had experience as a choreographer, but most of his experience was working with Michael Jackson. You know, only the greatest pop star of all time. The cast at the time, like most DCOMs, were filled with relatively unknowns. You had Zac Efron in the lead, and his singing voice was dubbed for most of the first movie. Which is crazy to think about now, seeing that Efron has been in another musical since these movies. Then you've got Vanessa Hudgens, who most people might recognize from a movie called 13, Ashley Tisdale, who most fans knew from the Disney Channel show The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Then you had Lucas Grabel, Corbin Bleu, and Monique Coleman to round out the main cast. The film premiered on the Disney Channel on January 20th, 2006, and absolutely exploded. We're talking a full-blown cultural phenomenon, massive ratings, and a chart-topping soundtrack, which, honestly, I'll give them props. For Disney-style music, they had some good ones in the first movie, like Start of Something New, Breaking Free, and the theme song for the franchise were all in this together. Disney saw the hype, so naturally they said, give the people what they want. High School Musical 2 had a slightly bigger budget, more elaborate choreography, and more confidence in its identity. Kenny Ortega came back, and pretty much everyone from the first movie came back as well, and they put a lot more effort into this movie. The acting was better, and the songs, again, Disney-style songs, had more effort put into them. You got hits like What Time Is It?, Every Day, and like I mentioned earlier, the absolute heartbreak song of Gotta Go My Own Way. The movie premiered once again on the Disney Channel, August 17th, 2007, and once again, surprised everyone. Its premiere generated 17 million viewers in the United States alone. You heard that right, folks. A Disney Channel original movie holds the record for most viewers of a premiere. Let that sink in for a minute. But then Disney saw the hype and said, hey, give the people what they want, but make it bigger. So Disney decided to put the third and final movie into theaters. Which is just crazy to think about. Remember, we talked about the history of DCOMs earlier, and I talked about how some of them got sequels. Actually, quite a few of them did. Johnny Tsunami got a sequel, Xenon got 2 sequels, Halloween Town, which for the longest time held the record with 3 sequels, but nobody at Disney at one point said, hey, maybe these should go to theaters until High School Musical. Going to the cinemas meant they got a full theatrical budget, advanced camera setups, larger sets, and even more complex choreography, and more cinematic storytelling. These weren't just made for TV anymore. This was a full-on movie. The cast was all pretty much established at this point, and everything was designed to feel bigger. The songs? So much better. You've got Now or Never, Can I Have This Dance, Troy's solo in Scream, and then the final number simply titled High School Musical. The movie also got more emotional, as it really made everything feel more final. This was the chance for the cast and crew to say goodbye to something that, honestly, nobody thought was going to grow as big as it did. In terms of finances, it worked. The film premiered on October 24th of 2008 and grossed over $250 million worldwide, and helped to establish the cast even more, some of them going on to bigger things after these movies. And that's how High School Musical went from a Disney Channel gamble to a full-blown box office powerhouse. But here's the question. When you strip away the lights, when you strip away the budget, when you strip away Troy Bolton's epic sliding, does it still feel like High School Musical? Well, let's get into the similarities and differences and find out. So, when it comes to the similarities, this trilogy is surprisingly consistent. Like, almost impressive consistent. Because no matter how big the budget got, no matter how big it got cinematically, the story stayed the same. It just got a little louder. First off, all 3 movies revolve around identity. That is the heartbeat of this franchise. The first movie asks, can I be more than one thing? The second movie, who am I becoming, and am I losing myself along the way? And in the third movie, it's, who am I going to be when all of this is over? It's the same question, just at different stages of life. And that's part of the reason why so many people enjoy this series, because it connects and grows with its audience. Another similarity? The music isn't just a feature, it's the language of these movies. These characters don't just talk about their feelings, they sing them. Dramatically, and with choreography. And sometimes in places where singing makes absolutely no logical sense. I mean, seriously, when you were facing a crisis in the gym, the cafeteria, or even a golf course, did you start singing and dancing? Yeah, I didn't think so. Every song in these movies are tied to emotion. Breaking Free, it's about self-discovery, gotta go my own way, independence, and Scream, a full existential meltdown. Different songs, but with the same purpose. The music is how the story moves forward, not just something that stands outside of the spotlight. Then you've got the ensemble dynamic. I know during the plot I spent a lot of time talking about Troy and Gabriella, but really when you break it down, it's not just about them. You've got Chad and Taylor trying to balance logic versus emotion, Sharpay and Ryan navigating ambition and identity. Even Coach Bolton and Miss Darvish go through an arc in these movies, realizing that people can be more than just one thing. And the entire student body representing different types of people. All three movies reinforce this idea that everyone has a role, everyone has a voice, and everyone matters. Even if some of them are aggressively committed to baking. I'm looking at you, Zeke. Finally, I think the biggest similarity of the movies is the central theme of breaking expectations. It's the mission statement of all three movies. Movie 1 tells us to stick to the status quo, and then we immediately break the status quo. Movie 2 tells us not to lose who you are while chasing who you could possibly be. And movie 3 tells us that you don't have to pick just one path. Every single film pushes against the idea that you have to stay in one lane, and that's a message that never changes. So yeah, even with the big leap to movie theaters, the High School Musical trilogy is still singing the same song, just with better speakers in the third movie. But while the heart of High School Musical stays the same, the way it's presented, that's where things start to change. Let's look at those differences and see where this leap really shows itself. So the DNA of High School Musical stays the same, but the presentation completely levels up. For one, the scale between the first two and the third one are hard to ignore. In the first two movies, you're at East High. The classrooms are tight, the gym feels like a real school gym, the musical numbers kind of feel like they could actually happen, with a little suspension of disbelief. But the third movie, it feels like East High got a renovation budget from Tony Stark. Everything is bigger. The gym is bigger, the stage is bigger, the sets are bigger, there are more lights, more extras, more everything. If the decoms feel like after school specials, the third movie was an all-access pass to a professional Broadway stage with all the lighting and rigs you could ask for. Then you have the cinematography. The first two movies are shot like TV movies. The camera setups are more simple, the scenes are static, but in the third movie, the camera is moving. It has sweeping shots, crane shots, tracking shots, and dramatic close-ups with lighting that says, "This is a serious movie." Suddenly, a hallway scene doesn't feel like a hallway scene. It feels like a moment. Next up, the choreography and musical numbers, which, don't get me wrong, the first two movies had great choreography, but they feel contained, like they have to work with the space that they have. High School Musical 3 comes in and says, hey, we're using the entire building and then some. You got multiple giant ensemble numbers, stage productions within the movie that feels like professional musical theater, and then you've got Scream. Troy's solo in the movie, which, honestly, kind of deserves its own segment, just because of the production alone. You've got Troy sliding across the floor, jumping between levels, and basically running through the school like he's performing a show titled Teen Angst, The Experience. Finally, let's talk about the tone shift, because this is the biggest difference of them all. The first two movies are light, fun, and comfortable. Even when there's conflict, it feels manageable. High School Musical 3 gets real on us. We're talking about leaving friends behind, making life decisions, choosing a future, which, if you're an adult like me, you've been going through this crisis. But as a high schooler, these are the biggest things that you have to deal with. And I can remember going through this experience myself my senior year. What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? What's going to happen to the friendships I've made along the way? It's a lot to ask someone who is so used to the norm of being in school, and that's what you feel in this movie. Suddenly, the stakes feel heavier because they are. It's not about auditioning anymore. It's about moving on, and that hits differently, especially if you're someone who grew up with these movies, because at some point, they probably had you like, wait, I wasn't emotionally prepared for this. So I'll be honest, when these movies came out, I was going through high school myself, with the third one about senior year coming out at the same time I was going through my senior year. And I was definitely in that teenage phase of, oh, I'm too cool to watch Disney stuff. Years later as an adult, I realized how stupid that was. And watching this as an adult now, it's not bad. You know, it's not something I'm going to put on a regular basis, but I see the impact that it's had. I mean, heck, just last month I was at Disney World, and what did I see in all the stores? High School Musical gear. Mainly because they were selling it for the 20th anniversary of the first movie, but also because Disney understands the impact that these movies have had. Even to the point of... Don't judge. It was on sale. Even to the point of Disney Plus making a High School Musical series that talks about students at East High School making a mockumentary about them making a stage play of the three movies. So yeah, I can see the impact that these movies have had, and while they might not be for me, they're definitely for somebody. But here on the Big Screen Leap, we don't just decide whether a movie's good or not. We decide if the leap to theaters was worth it. So, was it worth it for the first two DCOMs to leap to theaters for the third and final movie? Yes, but also it was unnecessary. Okay, hold on. Wait a second. Hear me out here. When you look at High School Musical as a franchise, it's undeniably iconic. This wasn't just a movie series, it was a moment. It launched careers, defined Disney Channel for an entire generation, and proved that made-for-TV movies could become something much bigger. And when you specifically look at High School Musical 3, it's good. Like, genuinely. It's polished, it's emotional, it feels like a proper finale. The songs are bigger, the visuals are better, the performances are stronger, and it gives these characters a send-off that feels earned. You can tell Disney cared, you can tell the cast cared, you can tell this wasn't just a cash grab. This was a celebration. But here's the thing, what made High School Musical special was never the size, it was the feeling. The first two movies had this charm, this simplicity, this lightning in a bottle energy. They feel like something you discovered, something that belonged to you. You watched them at home, you replayed the songs, and if you're younger than me, you probably memorized the choreography. They felt personal, and when it moved to theaters, sure, you gained spectacle, but to me, you also lose just a little bit of that intimacy. High School Musical 3 is bigger, but it's also a little less cozy. It became an event instead of a comfort. But that doesn't make it bad at all. It just makes it different. Because at the end of the day, High School Musical didn't need a bigger stage to make a big impact. It already had one. So the leap, it works. It's impressive, it's entertaining, and it gives us one of the best send-offs Disney Channel has ever produced. But it wasn't necessary to make the movie meaningful, because the heart of High School Musical was already there from the very first karaoke note. But that's all the time that we have for today. Did you like High School Musical? Which one was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and ringing that notification bell so you're notified every time we post a video. Until next time, from page to screen and everything in between, this has been the Big Screen Leap. And remember, no matter where you're at in the world, we're all in this together. Bye, everyone.